Oh, what if that's why my title music wasn't loading for?
It's definitely resolved.
All right, so for incident response and handling, we're just going to jump in and get through this last little bit here. This will be what you guys will do at the very end of your stuff. Gotta love that AI generated stuff over here, right? Text is super nice and clean. So, again, this is typically what you do towards the end on your incident handling process for a SOC. It's going to involve a structured approach for detecting, responding to, and mitigating, and then recovering from those events. So, we've talked about these steps all the way through in preparing for these by establishing our policies and procedures, creating a response team, et cetera, and then moving down through identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and then our post-analysis. And this post-analysis is really kind of where we're focusing at. We talked about the classification and prioritization is essential, especially what was the key word that we used for all of that when we do our classification and prioritization? Is that special medical T word?
Triage.
Triage, yep. Let's see here. So a breakdown of an incident classification. We set those severity levels, and this is where we do our triage. Those common severity levels include low, medium, high, and critical. We define what the type of incident is. This could be coming from our indicators of compromise. It could be what nature they're coming from, the type that's coming in. So whether it's a malware infection, a denial of service attack, phishing attack, et cetera. What vectors they're using in order to have compromised said system, and then what assets got affected during that process. We'll need to prioritize based off business impact. At the end of the day, if any of you guys have worked in a business environment, how does it impact the business, right? You could have 13 compromised systems, but if they're such minuscule systems that don't have any business impact, then the threat is what on the scale? Low, right? Just check and see if everybody's there. Risk assessment, conduct a risk assessment to evaluate the likelihood and the potential impact of that incident, especially when addressing the incidents with the highest risk first. Our time sensitivity, our relevance to those security objectives, and our resource availability. So in that life cycle, we'll start with our preparation, move back around, just like what we showed in the last slide. We'll plan to develop that documented incident response policy. So this is something you guys will do during this big project, is kind of spell out the policies and how we're going to be doing documentation. You'll assemble a team of skilled individuals, that gets to know you guys, of various disciplines, including our IT, security, legal, management, et cetera, to form an incident response team. Implement those security tools and technologies such as the SIEM, the IDS, IPS, EDR solutions, forensic tools, whatever it takes to aid in the detection, analysis, and response. And again, it's exactly what you guys will be doing. And then also you guys would go through and do regular training and awareness programs. That'll be one little piece that you guys will build, is a security awareness part of what you guys learned. So you would be building that for delivery to whatever company that would you would be servicing in this case. Let's see, in that you would also go through and just continuously monitor for suspicious activities, analyze any kind of security alerts, prioritize them, and then conduct in-depth investigations to gather evidence and scope. All right. Get through here. We're not going to do the training drills and all that part. So on that preparation, again, it just laid everything out. Know these keywords and the order in which they are, because that's what you're going to get quizzed over. Anybody have any questions on that preparation phase? So in identifying, this is the phase where the SOC analysts are going to be using professionals to focus on detecting and confirming those incidents. Again, you guys will be responsible for finding and identifying what's coming through. And then also, once you guys see the attacks, you'll have to come in and start doing containment. And find ways to implement temporary rules or whatever it takes to stop it from being attacked, block those malicious activities, and then preserve any evidence, including logs, et cetera. Once you've identified it and stopped the attack, you can then eradicate it from the systems the best you can. Note that you can't always eradicate a service. I don't care how hard you try. There's malware that just simply sometimes will not go away. Right? Formatting the system is about the only way you'll get rid of it. In recovery, this is where you guys will focus on the affected systems, see if you can recover applications and data and storage. And then after the recovery process, the SOC teams will conduct a post-incident review to identify any lessons learned. In this post-incident analysis, the SOC teams are going to conduct a comprehensive review. So after we get done with the event in the last week, basically, you guys will be going through doing this post-incident analysis, gathering all the information, and then performing the documentation and reporting, including a quote-unquote internal briefing. So you guys will create the paperwork that would be presented during a briefing at that point. All right. I know I glazed over that, but for the purposes of what you guys will be doing in the big event, those are kind of the key pieces I hope to get covered in that. As far as that big project that we're working on, the back end is, I believe, almost ready based off what we were talking about.
Yep.
So it's going to be pretty bare. You guys will essentially have a couple servers and the networking going on. But after that, you guys have to deploy all the services therein, starting from the top down. So from the router on down, essentially, you guys will be configuring all those services. So in the first week, the goal is that you guys will go out, find all the tools that you plan to implement, and then we'll do probably a poll on Discord, I think is the current plan. As a matter of fact, if I pull that up, let me take a look at that. Let's see here. This one, right? Yep. So we can go in there, you can have these channels. I believe you can actually do a forum, and that gives you that organization that you were looking for without being a full-blown just text channel kind of
Never
thing.
done the forum one, so.
So we'll look at that, see what that looks like, and see if that will give you what you need for the different channels. But however you guys feel like you need to set this up, that's how we'll end up adding, subtracting. I don't really care. You guys just tell me what you need on my side. And then from there, it'll be a matter of you guys communicating with each other. This will be the same for you guys in campus as well as the online students. This will be your main form of communication. I will be having a grad student that's dropping in here to make sure that people are participating, and you'll get your participation points based off you actually participating. That isn't putting a period and hitting enter. Yeah, nice try.
I have a bot, it's fine.
You can do all the bot. If you detect it as a bot, I'll just give you a 0. All right, actual participation has to exist in this environment. That's the whole point. So you guys can vote on what you want to do for the different pieces of software. Once all that's voted on and you guys have solidified that, then my assumption is that you would then go ahead and figure out how you want to divvy it up among the individuals, and then start with the back-end access to the server. Everybody create their individual virtual machine or whatever service they're portraying at this point. I think based off the environment that we're doing, if we have a bunch of different services, instead of trying to run that all on one VM, so to speak, everybody would spin off their own VM and install just that one service. For whatever service you end up deploying, or a group of 3 or whatever it is, makes sense for some of the big stuff. Like, for example, whatever the main SIEM is you're installing, that's probably going to take more than one person working through there. It will be up to you guys to coordinate with both on campus and virtual. Like, in other words, grab 3 people, find a time to work on it, that kind of stuff as we go through there. And then you would deploy it. And part of that's going to be a write-up on what you found during deployment, what kind of struggles you had. I'm not looking for a 14-page paper. This will be like a 1-page document that says, here's what we found, issues that we came with, issues we had to overcome, that kind of stuff. Would you recommend this install, or what would you have done differently for this install? There'll be a template for that when you guys go to fill that out. The goal is then to get everybody get their stuff deployed, make sure we're all working together. In other words, all those services mesh together. And then once we get those services up and running and we get some machines available that run behind it so that you can generate some log information, then I'll turn loose some of the pen testers and see if you guys can find the alerts coming through. So, any questions or anything? All right. Like I said, lots more information will get released in each one of those, but we're essentially using the rest of the semester to do that. The goal is that we get all the way to the end. We have the post-incident response and all of that. I don't know how that's all going to work, given this is the first time we're trying to implement it. But even if we get halfway through this process, you're going to get much more information than you would have ever gotten out of the old versions of this class. And when you walk in with an employer, especially for those of you looking to graduate, you will be able to talk intelligently on at least the software that's there, why you chose it, and how to implement it. That's ultimately what matters right now. So if we can get the whole SOC built, great. But even if we get halfway through, it's not a fail because you guys will have done the hard part of a SOC. So, all right. Anybody got questions? Cool. Then on Thursday, we will go over the quiz and we'll get you the first intros. I'd like to take most of the time Thursday just to see how you guys want to kind of organize this piece. I'm going to put some stuff there on Blackboard today to tell people to make sure they're part of the Discord channel and give us feedback on.
We should probably make sure everyone uses their real name in Discord.
Yeah, it's a struggle, right? But I know exactly who Capybari Boy is. So isn't there a way I can do that on this side?
You can manually give people names.
Okay.
Names.
Yeah, but we can also just say, hey, if you want to grade in this class, put your real name.
Yeah, then they'd have to use a separate Discord or change their name for the entire.
You can change your nickname for just the server.
Okay, great.
Nick it on.
I have like a dozen names just because I like.
Edit per server profile. Love it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we will do that. I will put those instructions on Blackboard to make sure that they edit their per server profile for their actual Blackboard name as well. Not the name you go by, but your Blackboard name so that I can easily identify who you are.
I was just thinking it might be easier if we have our first name and last initial or something. Especially like if you have someone who doesn't know everybody checking it. Or...
Yeah. Actually, first name and last initial never works. Just so you know. I don't know how many times I've done that in classes and we end up somehow having the same name and same last initial or weird stuff going on.
Put our full name on there then. I don't mind doing that.
Okay. At least, like I said, if you can do it for this server profile, that makes things a whole lot easier.
But my name is whoever the smartest person in this class is.
All right. Anybody else have any questions on that? So that's the plan Thursday is just kind of do the pre-setup. We'll make sure that the back end's all in. Most of the way that you guys are going to access the environment will be through NetLab. It'll just be a single lab that you'll click on through Blackboard. And it just gets you a VM that's running in that environment. And then from there, you can log into the server and do everything else. That avoids everybody having to do a VPN or something else that would be a nightmare to manage. So.
Well, you don't have everyone to download Tailscale?
No, I don't want anybody to deal with all of that. So.
I love my Tailscale.
Let's see, Nathan, Ian, you guys have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, then we'll see you Thursday. And like I said, it'll be more of a planning session for the big project coming up next week. All right, we'll see you then.